Hey, greetings and welcome back once again. It's Emunah Y'srael, Solonomics 101 Lev Project. And guess what? It's been like a while since I've done a video like this. I have still been busy, just in another capacity. Plus, sometimes it's good to take a vacation, take a break. So after the whole Root series and all of that energy and effort I put into it, I kind of took a break, picked up some arts and craft, made these nice juicy crocheted earrings and a whole lot of other stuff, as well as yesterday we had a really good time at the children's ride-on workshop. It was where we shared the book, My Brother, My Keeper. We had a good turnout. The children enjoyed themselves and got kind of charged up about writing their own book and narrative. I'll share some of that in a little bit. But when I came back from all of that, right, you know, after the event you kind of like, when I came back, I see this whole conversation around the BET Awards and Jessie Williams speech, and I'm like, ooh, I might want to talk about this. So basically, we're that type of people. We hear something, I saw women in there like they was about to hit in the spirit, but on a serious note, there's a 9 key points that I heard in the 4-minute presentation that he get. It's very important to note that I don't think he just went off the cuff with this conversation. It sounds like something that he thought about beforehand. One moment. Yeah, we had to get a little closer. The power was about to go out. But it sounds like a little thing that he thought about beforehand. And being that it sounds like he thought about what he was going to put in the speech, I kind of want to think about what he put in the speech. So these are 9 key points that were worth repeating from Jessie Williams' BET speech. Point number 1. Comprehension over career. When he opened up, he said he wanted to give a shout out to his mother and father. And by the way, I saw some backlash on Twitter about him being a light skin and he's not really black and all of this stuff like this. So apparently his mother is Swedish and his father is African American or black mixed with Indian. This is what I read from Georgia. And so there are people who are picking up on that and saying that this disqualifies him from having this conversation. I don't know about that, but what I do know is that he said something very interesting at the beginning, that his parents, and I have my notes here, so if you see me looking down, it's because I don't want to forget anything. His parents made sure he learned what school was afraid to teach him. So that Swedish mother and that black father make sure they instill within their child what he needed to know beyond what was recommended for learning. And he called that comprehension over career. And again, like I said yesterday, we were talking with the children at the workshop to see how much they really knew, how much school was teaching them versus how much their parents were teaching them. And this conversation needs to continue beyond the applause that he got at the BET Award. Let's go on to point number 2. Point number 2 that I think is worthy repeating, because how do we just reduce it to a little meme? Let's go through the whole thing. He took time, let's take time. Point number 2, a system built to divide and impoverish and destroy us cannot stand if we do. So speaking about the unjust system that we are here in the West, not just America, let me get that, sometimes we like to concentrate because we're in America, it's not just America, it's the West. The system that we are as people whose foreparents came across the waters on the transatlantic concerning slavery and concerning all those things that he alluded to in his speech, and speak directly to as well. Some were alluded to, some were spoken directly to. He's talking about the system of racism and white supremacy. He's speaking about a system that is built on the backs of others. He says it cannot stand if we do. Does that imply that we're not standing? Point number 3, basic mathematics. He took it back to arithmetic. By the way, did you know he taught school for 6 years in Philadelphia? Of course, I know I had to do a little recon. He taught school, he double majored in the arts, media arts, as well as African American studies. So no wonder he's speaking the way he does. He has a little bit more information than the average bear. Remember Yogi? But anyway, he said basic mathematics. The more we learn about who we are and how we got here, the more we will mobilize. I had to put that as one of my favorites. The more we learn about who we are and how we got here. This is what I've been talking about, and so many other people have been talking about, and others be like, I don't want to hear it, Emunah. I don't want to hear about, slavery and who we are and who we were. We don't want to hear about that stuff. I don't know if they were clapping for that specific part or if you was at home like, yeah, I believe it. But the reality is the more we know about who we are, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because understand that other people are studying who you are. I'm going to go go on to point number 4. He touched on the black woman. That got, like I said, I'm gonna let me see if I can get a still shot to show you how everybody was like, But what he did say was interesting. He said, to the black women who have spent their lifetimes dedicated to nourishing or nurturing everyone before themselves, we can and will do better for you. That's an acknowledgement of the sacrifice. A lot of times we get this conversation, this argument between the black woman and the black man and who did more and who did less. And he's acknowledging at this point that you sacrifice yourself, basically, for the survival. And that's real. When you go back into these narratives, you go back into history, there are countless sacrifices that have been made on behalf of the black woman so that we can still be here today. When you talk about single parent homes and it's not putting blame, oftentimes, more often than not, she's the one who's left holding the bag. And she's sacrificing a lot, and it's very difficult. And Jessie Williams acknowledged that in this speech. And that conversation doesn't need to just fly away into the distance. It needs to be brought to the forefront so that we can understand where she's falling short and where she does need to get a bit of acknowledgement to say, yes, thank you for holding it until this point. So that now we can come together and rectify. We could come together and heal those broken spaces. Number 5. Number 5. Let me go ahead and turn. I really wrote this stuff down. I'm serious. Number 5. Speaking to police brutality and public servants, he spoke about equal rights. He says equal rights, or you're going to reconstruct, or we're going to reconstruct the function, or your function and ours. And this was where he was speaking to the slain black youth and the slain elders over the years, and he's saying he would think that they would beg to differ, that we're any further along from 1612 or 1712, 300 or 400 years ago, because the function of the paddy rollers, the function of the patrollers, they had oftentimes, more often than not, free reign to control the natives, or non-natives in this case. But they had the ability to use this kind of force that we're still seeing today. And he's calling attention to this. And I will go back to point number 3. If we knew our history, we really wouldn't be that surprised. I'm going to go on to point number 6 of key points that were worth repeating in this BET speech. I don't know if it came before or after the performances, but we're kind of the people who will be like, yes, that was good. And the next thing you know, we be right back in it. We have to understand that the small makes up the great. So if we are pushing in one direction and at the next turn we're back in the other direction, we've kind of undone what we just did. But that's just foods for thought. What number was I up to? Oh man, I'm up to number 6. Number 6. To all of us getting money. This I thought was interesting. So interesting, it's almost all of my page. Because I'm like, he just bust shots in the room. Did you hear what he just said? He said, to all us getting money, meaning those who are in the room, getting that alone is not going to stop this, I would have to say, because what preceded it was the police brutality, the injustice, and all the oppression that's happening. That might be the this. So he's saying money alone ain't going to cut it. You understand? He says dedicating our lives to getting money just to give it right back for someone's brand on your body. When we spent centuries praying with someone's brand on your body, and now we pray to get paid for someone's brand on our bodies. I'm going to just have to chill for that one. I know he had to have written this. He's a performer, so he had to have meditated on that, because that was so poetic, it was ridiculous, but it was true. Before you came off the ship, and your foreparents came off the ship, mothers and fathers and children, in order to know what company you belong to, where you belong to a company out of the Dutch, where you belong to English, French, Portuguese, they would brand you with a hot iron like an animal. So when he's talking about branding, when everybody's talking about branding today, this thought is to say, who do you belong to? Who do you represent? And when they took that flaming hot iron and pressed it against your foreparents' impressionable flesh, it was not a sign of, I've made it. It was not a sign of, yeah, it's about to be on. But he is drawing the analogy between this branding and today. Those very same people who's on the red carpet, and they say, well, who are you wearing? And they're like, oh, today I have on. And they're all proud to be branded with the symbols of the oppressor. I just thought that was like poetic. Did you catch that? Hopefully you did. And so now we're pushing ourselves into these spaces to be branded. So where does the personal responsibility come in? I think he's gonna go into a little bit of personal responsibility. At somewhere along this line, it is good to outline what others have done, and then we have to now be realistic about what we are continuing to do. 7. Freedom is conditional here. Where is the here? I would think that he's talking about America, and further than that, the West, meaning South America, Caribbean, North America. Here, it's conditional. He said, it's always coming. This is the promise. It soon come. Relax. Just, in the by and the hereafter. Pray. You're going to go to heaven. You're going to be free. He was like, that's a hustle. And that's something to think about. 8. The burden of the brutalized is not to comfort the bystander. And I would add to that, not to comfort the oppressor. And in that, I saw a whole big thing behind Justin Timberlake hashtagging something like he's really inspired by the speech, and then a firestorm of people saying, yo, you wasn't saying that before. When are you gonna give back our culture now? Are you gonna give back what you stole? And so there are a lot of people coming out to the defense of him, and also those who are going at him. So here Jessie Williams says the burden of the brutalized is not to comfort the bystander. You're not supposed to walk on eggshells to that one who's oppressing you. I keep saying that I liken the system of not only racism, white supremacy, but the whole slavery conversation to a domestic abuse. And in domestic abuse, oftentimes the one who's abused is abused so much mentally, emotionally, and physically that they start to sympathize with the abuser. And he's saying it's not your job to comfort them. You're the one in the bad position. It's like the woman getting knocked in the eye and she's saying, oh, I'm so sorry I upset you. So where is the accountability once we identify that in this equation, you have been the ones, your foreparents have been the ones oppressed? We have to look at how we're interacting, how we feel when we say things. Do we have to apologize before we speak truth? If we do, we might be trying to comfort not only the bystander, but those or the system that continues to oppress. And lastly, number 9. That's all I got out of these 4 minutes. It was, like I said, it was really deep. This is just surface right now. But number 9, he says, this invention called whiteness, and I have a book, and I'm quite sure there are many other books of how they invented the term white, and this is why I love my quotations. They're like, why you always do those quotations, Emunah? Because it's made up. If you're a European, you either come from France, England, Germany, Spain. You come from, Netherlands. You're not white. That's an invention. And so because he's a history teacher, he's an African American studies teacher, he just threw that in there, and I hope you caught it. He says, invention called whiteness uses and abuses us, burying black people out of sight and mind while extracting culture, dollar, and entertainment like oil. Understand, when I was doing this study for the Angry Black Woman Syndrome Revisited, the very first form of authentically American entertainment is, you ready? The minstrel shows was the very first form of American entertainment. So what he's talking about occurred, and that was the 1830s, the early 1800s. Before, like I said, on many other occasions, they used to do Shakespearean plays. Because remember, America is a budding country. We seem to act like America is like very, very old. Not really. But these minstrel shows, which were mocking, extracting the culture, extracting the vibration of black people or the servant class in this country, was a money maker. I did another video a long time ago about when they had the coon song era. They was making buku dough. They were making money dressing up as black women and black men in blackface. But here's the thing. I know some people probably are going to press thumbs down, but it's all good. We bought in. And the room that we saw filled there continues to buy in. Our foreparents, those here who thought that, okay, if I imitate them imitating me, then I can make it. I can make this money. I can do what I need to do to survive. So those who had that spirit, because understand, entertainment, singing, dancing, that's a vibe. That's a spirit that's on that individual. That is what they do naturally. And so when they didn't know what to do with it other than entertain the masses or the master, this is what they did. So our people bought into it. So it's not only that the European stole it, now you willingly want to portray these ghettoized versions of yourself. But I'm going to continue. He says black gold, ghettoized and demeaning is criticizing, then stealing them. This, like I said, this has been happening for a while. Gentrifying our genius, then trying them on like costumes before discarding our bodies. Again, it was a costume. It was burnt cork, put on face, big lips, made to look like you're black, imitating the way you move, the way you speak, the way you act. And other Europeans always thought this was entertaining and funny. And so they came out and support, and they still do. He says, before discarding our bodies like rinds of strange food. And again, he's alluding to the lynchings, the bodies, get it? Lynching, bodies, strange food. I know you get it. But again, he packed so much history into this speech that I know his words were moving, but we would be remiss if we didn't break it back down and understand that in this space and time, we are responsible. We are accountable for the part that we play, because again, there are many people in that room that's still reading those scripts, those still playing those roles so that they can get that brand and cut that check. And there are many of us who are still going to these movies, renting these DVDs, and watching them ghettoizing and dehumanizing us. And as a matter of fact, there's some who are doing it willingly now. So that was my 9 key points that were worth repeating from Jessie Williams BET Speech. Once again, my name is Emunah Y'srael. This has been Solonomics 101. I pray everybody is doing excellent and well, and it's good to be back. I'll talk to you guys soon. 1.